Okay, we can begin with the build. We'll start with the firing mechanism. We'll get the various pieces that we need for that. You've got, first of all, you want to put in the shell release clip. So that just clicks into the air chamber like that. And then the smallest spring that was in your kit just pops in there to make sure the shell's released properly. If you've got some WD-40, just give the rubber seal a squirt just in the air chamber. If it's been in storage for a while, these can dry out. You can also do this when the kit is built, and it makes sense to do it periodically just to make sure you get good working order with your kit. Then put on the return spring, and then just take the plunger and put on the O-ring, put the plunger in the air chamber, and then we'll connect that to the rest of the kit later. Now we can move on to the trigger. So first of all, we need the two plastic components to make up the trigger. So there's the trigger and then the trigger handle. And then we need the spring. And also, in your pack of screws, once you can get those open, there are three types of screws. There are screws that look like they have a kind of a built-in washer. Those are for the camo skin later. There are the normal screws that are for the plastic. And then there's one little screw in there, just one of its kind, and that is for the trigger. So what you want to do is put those two plastic pieces together, make sure that the connection point points upwards so that the trigger will connect, and then just screw in that very small screw, not too tight so that it restricts the movement of the plastic, but just tight enough that it keeps those two pieces together. Hook on the trigger spring, and that's ready then to put into the main body later. Okay, so now we can move on to the magazine release. You want to grab hold of it'll be the right side, so the side with a hole in it, and you need the two pieces that they're responsible for releasing the magazine. So there's a little hook and a little button. So the button goes on the outside and the little hook goes on the inside. Okay, so there's a little kind of hook in there so that they fit into each other nicely. Then there's one screw that goes in there. I'm using an electric screwdriver, but on a very light setting. If you are using an electric screwdriver, don't put it on a too high setting, otherwise you're in risk of cracking the plastic. So we'll screw that in snugly, but not over tighten, and the button should press, and you should see the hook on the inside moving in and out. Okay, so now we can do the safety switch and the magazine hook. So we need the other side of the base. So first of all, we'll do the safety switch. So the piece that goes on the outside, so there's like a handle, and that pushes right in until it clicks in place. And then if you flip it over, there's a little hook on the inside of there and a little inlet in the other piece of plastic. So just push those two pieces together. There you go, they should slot in nicely, there you go. And then take the screw, pop that in again, take your screwdriver or electric screwdriver and just push that into place. Again, make sure it's snug but not too tight, and you should see that the switch works pretty well. So there's the safety, and then you need the magazine hook. So again, there's one small spring and one little plastic hook. If you just pop the spring on that handle and then put the magazine hook in place, that's now complete. So now we can attach the trigger to that base. So take the pieces that you just created, hook the spring on, make sure that the O of the spring is right over that plastic piece so that it doesn't come into any kind of conflict. Oops, let's reattach that spring. So we'll just put that spring back on. What I'm trying to make sure is that spring is right over the plastic holding piece, otherwise the other cover won't attach correctly. So once the spring is on, the trigger and the trigger arm both slot over the two pieces of plastic, and there you have it. Next, you want to add the firing mechanism, so the air chamber that we created earlier. There's a hole. Oh yeah, there's the choice of two springs. So we've got the adult spring and the child spring. We're doing the adult spring, so we can put the child spring away. There's a hole in the plunger, and you want to make sure that hole points downwards, i.e. towards the trigger. Otherwise that trigger handle has nothing to grip onto. So once you made sure that's pointing downwards, kind of start with the front of the air chamber, hook that in place, hook the piston in place, put the spring on, and you've got the air chamber. You want to keep a finger on that air chamber, otherwise it kind of tends to pop out, just because of the pressure that the spring